What do you do when your family's entire world collapses? And that perfect image you built is suddenly gone. It's one thing to lose everything, but it's something else entirely. When you look around and realize you're completely on your own. Hello, how are you? How is your family life going? We're back again today. So, without further ado, let's get started. But here's the thing. The fallout surrounding the Duggar family has taken a turn that's getting harder to ignore. Because now, it's not just about one household. It's spreading. And one of the clearest examples people are talking about is what's happening to Kendra and her father. And this is where it gets interesting. The situation raises a bigger question. What is the real cost of being connected to a high-profile reality TV family when everything starts to fall apart? To understand this, we need to step back for a moment. The Duggar family built their public image over many years. Through reality television, they weren't just a large family. They represented a lifestyle, a set of values, and strong community ties. That image became their brand. And for a long time, that brand created opportunities, not just for them, but for the people around them too. Kendra's family, the Caldwells, were part of that extended circle. Her father, Paul Caldwell, was a pastor. The families were closely connected through church, shared beliefs, and eventually, marriage. When Kendra married Joseph Duggar, that connection became even more visible. Now, this part is important. Their lives weren't just personal. They were tied into a larger system. Church roles, public perception, and even financial stability, all connected to the Duggar name. When things were stable, that connection likely brought benefits. But when things changed, it also brought consequences. And that's where things begin to shift. If everything sounds good so far, and you're enjoying this, let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. Now, after the Duggar family's legal controversies became widely known, public perception changed fast. The show ended, media attention turned negative, and suddenly, being associated with the Duggar name didn't carry the same weight anymore. One key point people have focused on is Paul Caldwell reportedly losing housing tied to his position. Now, it's important to stay grounded here. Details can vary depending on the source, and not everything is fully confirmed publicly. But what's been discussed is that his housing was connected to his role in the church. Why this matters is pretty straightforward. When your home is tied to your job, losing one can mean losing both. At the same time, that creates a very real and immediate crisis. It's not just about income. It's about stability, security, and having a place to live. And honestly, this is something people often overlook. Most people focus on headlines and scandals, but the ripple effects hit basic needs, housing, work, daily life. Another important piece. These families were closely tied, socially and financially. The Duggar ecosystem wasn't just one household. It included extended family, church networks, and shared community roles. So when that central pillar weakens, everyone connected to it feels the impact. Why this matters is because it shows how fragile that system can be. If your opportunities depend on one central figure or one family, then any damage to that center spreads outward, not evenly. Some people feel it more than others. And in this case, families like the Caldwells are being seen as collateral damage. This is where people mention the so-called Duggar curse. Not literally, but as a pattern, being connected to the family. Once opened doors, now it can close them. What stands out here is how quickly that shift happened. One moment, it helps you. The next, people distance themselves. Another factor, the loss of reality TV income. When the show ended, that revenue disappeared. And even if not everyone was paid directly, the visibility created opportunities. And this is where it matters. Media exposure often leads to indirect income. Speaking opportunities, community influence, support networks. When that disappears, the drop can be sharper than expected. A lot of viewers don't realize how much that lifestyle depends on visibility. Once the cameras are gone, things behind the scenes can weaken quickly. There's also the social side. These families are part of tight-knit communities. Reputation matters a lot. And when public perception shifts, it doesn't stay online. It affects real relationships. Why this matters? Because reputation can influence jobs, housing, and trust. And that brings us back to Kendra Duggar. She isn't directly involved in any legal issues, but she is still connected through family, and that connection shapes how people see her situation. This is where it gets real. You don't have to be at the center of a controversy to feel its impact. Sometimes, just being nearby is enough. From a human perspective, this is where things become more emotional. You're looking at a young family, children involved, and a sudden loss of stability. Regardless of opinions, losing housing or employment is serious. Why this matters? Because real lives are affected. Not just headlines, not just stories. Real people dealing with uncertainty. Public reaction has been mixed. Some people see it as a natural consequence. Others feel sympathy, especially for those not directly responsible. You'll see comments ranging from critical to supportive. Some say, being part of that system has risks. Others say, not everyone had control. And honestly, both views exist. Because this situation is complicated, there aren't clear lines. Another thing, public attention moves fast. At one point, the Duggar family dominated reality TV. Now, the conversation is about fallout. Why this matters? Because public image is unstable. Fame can open doors, but it can also amplify the fallout. And for families like the Caldwells, the challenge now is rebuilding, new housing, new work, a different life, without the same support. And that transition is not easy. This is where the story shifts. It's no longer just about the Duggar name. It's about resilience. What happens next? How do people rebuild when everything changes so suddenly? There's also a bigger takeaway here. When your livelihood depends heavily on one system or one identity, it comes with risk. Why this matters? Because this situation isn't unique. It can happen anywhere. If that one source disappears, the impact can be immediate and severe. In the end, what we're seeing is more than just fallout. It's a chain reaction. One event leading to another, and the effects spreading outward in ways we don't always see at first. And maybe That's the biggest takeaway. This isn't just about one family anymore. It's about everyone connected to them. The ones now dealing with consequences. Even if they weren't at the center. So the question becomes, how far does that ripple go? And who else might still be affected in ways we haven't seen yet? Let me know what you think. I'd really like to hear your perspective. Now, Kendra Duggar has reportedly been trying to hold everything together. And this is where things get even more serious. She's been struggling, emotionally, and physically, especially after the arrest of her husband, Joseph Duggar. He was taken into custody on March 18, 2026, over allegations dating back to 2020. Kendra was also arrested, but later released. Since then, it seems she's been doing whatever she can to keep things afloat. Kendra and Joseph have reportedly decided to rent out their home. And at the same time, they're selling belongings. Things like trailers, a four-wheeler, even tools and equipment, all to cover expenses. Joseph's bond was set at $600,000. And legal fees are expected to keep rising. He was released after paying part of that amount and returned home. But the financial pressure hasn't gone away, and this is where it becomes overwhelming. Kendra has even shared that she's been feeling extremely fatigued, asking for prayers for her health. Now, here's another question. Will people rent their home? Will anyone buy their belongings? Some people online aren't sure. There's a lot of judgment. A lot of strong opinions. Some say they wouldn't support them at all. Others are simply trying to understand the situation. And again, you see both sides. Some are shocked anyone would help. Others are focused on the human side of it. At the end of the day, this situation is still unfolding. And what happens next remains uncertain. Would you stay in their home? Would you buy their items? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.